on in. Welcome, all who seek renewal in a weary world. Welcome, all who come with love and energy to share. Welcome to those who worry for the future. Welcome to each one who is grateful for today. Know that in this place you are not alone. In community, we share our strength with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright. Know that in this place, responsibility is shared. Here, tradition holds us, ancestors shine a light from the past. Here, the young lift their bright faces and beckon us onward. Take my hand, and we can go on together. Now, please rise in body and spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Down by the Riverside.
I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. I'm gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. Study war no more. I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside. I'm gonna study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. Study war no more. I'm gonna put on my traveling shoes down by the riverside. Where? Down by the riverside. I can't hear you. Where? Down by the riverside. I'm gonna put on my traveling shoes down by the riverside. Study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. Study
good morning, good morning. All right. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Leslie Grover, and I am a member of your preacher pack. To our guests online, welcome. For those who are not in Louisiana, we are in the throes of Mardi Gras season, and today we are not Mardi Gras up in here. But you are welcome. We have that same joy and we have that same spirit. Yes. So welcome. We're very glad to have you both in person and online. A few announcements this morning. Please be sure to sign up online for our common read on repentance and repair, making amends in an unapologetic world. This is going to be facilitated by Cynthia Bryant and Abel Thompson. So please sign up. Spots are filling up quickly. Also, a reminder that the first session of a 4-part Death Cafe workshop on death and dying will be next Saturday at noon. We will gather for lunch and relationship building in the fellowship hall, followed by a session on getting to know our mortal selves by Cappy Landrino. If you plan to attend, please RSVP to Donna Yelverton if you haven't done so. Woo. Also, the middle hour programs for this week, there will not be a faith in practice. That is not this week. However, in room 6, we have a faith in exploration, which includes an intro to our church, and it covers what do we worship and what do we teach. And we have a faith in action in room 7. That is a social justice sub-team on voting. All right. So again, welcome.
Well, as you can see, I'm Mardi Gras. Today's reading comes from Luke 8:43 through 48. In the crowd was a woman. She had suffered from an incurable menstrual disorder for 12 years and had spent her livelihood on doctors with no effect. It had kept her miserable and ritually unclean, unable to participate fully in Jewish life. She followed Jesus until she could reach him. She touched the fringe of the robe Jesus wore, and at that moment, the bleeding stopped. Jesus stopped, and looking about, he asked, "Who touched me?" The crowd began to murmur. Some in the crowd responded, "Not me." Someone else in the crowd said, "It wasn't me either." Peter and those of him intervened and said to Jesus, "Master, what kind of question is that? With this huge crowd all around you and many people touching you on all sides?" Jesus said, "I felt something. I felt power going out from me. I know that somebody touched me." The woman now realized her secret was going to come out sooner or later, so she stepped out of the crowd, shaking with fear, and she fell down in front of Jesus. She told her story in front of everyone, why she touched Jesus, what happened as a result. Jesus listened, and then he said, "Your faith has made you well again, daughter. Go in peace."
We have a tradition at this church, and it's the placing of the stones. And that means if you have anything that is on your heart or in your spirit, whether joyful or not so joyful, you are invited to come and place a stone so that whatever it is, you can keep with you or release during this time together of our service. We don't have any cards today, but still, for those who are online and for those who are here, whatever you're holding, I'd like to invite you now to come along the east and the west walls and join us as we place stones. Now let us repeat our words. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love. In our lesson for today, a woman has menstrual issues and she's been bleeding profusely for 12 years. And as Jesus was on his way actually to visit another family that he eventually ends up healing, the woman gets in the crowd along with the rest of her community and touches the hem of Jesus' garment. Jesus feels power leave him and he asks, "Who touched me?" But everyone tries to convince him that no one has, or it isn't important because he's surrounded by this group of people. But then he says, "I know someone touched me because I felt some of my power leave." The woman finally comes forward and tells her story, and Jesus tells her to go forth in peace because her faith has made her whole. Now, we don't know what happened to the woman after this, or at least the Bible doesn't mention. But we can be sure that while her menstrual issue was healed, that she probably faced other hard times. She probably got sick from time to time, as we all do. Even as I'm here before you, I have a little allergy that I brought back from my trip from Senegal. Apparently, I'm allergic to camel dander and dust. Who knew? Live and learn. But in that moment, it was just a touch that brought her healing from whatever the circumstances were that made it hard for her to live a good quality of life. Can you just imagine what her life was before that touch, trying to clean herself and trying to go forth with her day-to-day activities and not being able to be included in her community? And sometimes this isn't uncommon for women today, especially Southern women. You know, we have to work when we don't feel well. We have to take care of family. We have to do a lot of things that sometimes ask us to put ourselves to the side. But I want you to just take a moment and think about how she felt in that moment when she saw Jesus and she knew that if she could just touch the hem of his garment, that her life would be made better. Imagine the relief, imagine the joy and the hope in that moment. Imagine what it took just to think, against all odds, with everything against me, with all that I have been through and suffered, I'm gonna try to touch him. Even though he was moving quickly to his next destination, even though he wasn't there to heal her, even though he wasn't even expecting her. And in all this great power, still, after she touched him, he didn't even realize or acknowledge who she was in that moment. He just knew something had happened, just like she did. All it took was a touch, just a touch. When our circumstances seem hopeless, painful, and when the odds are against us, just imagine how it feels to have that one moment when there is just a touch of joy, hope, relief. Today we're going to explore that touch, just a touch, and we're going to try to unpack what the power of that touch can do in our most uncomfortable, painful, and dreadful moments. Does that sound good? All right. Now, as a continuing part of this part of my sermon, we're going to include a dramatic reenactment. I am just overjoyed with well more than a touch of joy to have my cousin Adrienne here with me to be able to do this in just a moment. And she's a fine actor. And you can actually, if you want to see more of her after this, which I am sure you will, you can go to Tubi. She is in a series called Sunless, and you can take a look at her excellent work. One of the many places, but of course, when she's on the red carpet in Hollywood, you'll be able to see her there too as an A-lister. Don't forget about us. She's going to do a reenactment of Fannie Lou Hamer and the testimony that she gave before Congress. Fannie Lou Hamer's life took a dramatic turn the day that she showed up for a mass meeting to learn about voting. It was August 1962, and Hamer, who at the time was 44 years old, she wasn't even sure what a mass meeting was. The meeting was organized by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and Hamer was told that something that she'd never in her life in the Mississippi Delta heard before, that Black people actually had the right to vote. She was one of 20 children born to a family of sharecroppers. She grew up picking cotton and cutting corn. When she was older, she married another sharecropper, and they scratched out a living doing hard work on a plantation near Ruleville, Mississippi. As you can imagine, there was no talk of voting or rights in that environment. But when Hamer heard the SNCC presentation, she asked herself, what do I really have? Not even security, not even job security. A lynching in a town had terrorized the people in that community, and the KKK was still active. So from Hamer's viewpoint and from the viewpoint of the rest of the nation, the Mississippi Delta was actually the world's most oppressive place to live, particularly if you were Black. So Hamer decided in that moment to register to vote. And on August the 31st, 1962, she boarded a bus to Indianola, Mississippi, with 17 others to try to register to vote. The next day, she was kicked off the plantation where she lived and worked for 18 years, and her husband lost his job too. But she immediately went to work as a field organizer for SNCC, and she was returning home from a workshop in June 1963 when her bus was stopped by policemen. She and 2 others were taken to jail in Winona, Mississippi, and they were beaten by police, and she sustained permanent damage to her kidneys. But after that, she went across the U.S. telling her story. So in 1964, with the support of the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party, she ran for Congress. She ran against a man who had been in office for 12 years. So her thing was, all my life, I've been sick and tired. Now I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's where that quote comes from. If you ever heard anyone say, sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's our good ancestor and dear sister, Fannie Lou Hamer. So SNCC had formed the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to expand Black voter registration and challenge the state's all-white Democratic Party. And they arrived at this 1964 National Democratic Convention because they wanted to unseat the Mississippi delegation, or at least get seated with them, because they said, you're not representing all the voters. And so President Lyndon B. Johnson, he was threatened by these people, just a touch threatened by these people who showed up from the Mississippi Delta, led by Fannie Lou Hamer. And so he tried to do a press conference. He tried to cut off her testimony because it was being televised. But later that night, Hamer's speech that we're about to hear was broadcast on all the major networks. And now, here is a speech that brought the nation to its knees.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee. My name is Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Ruleville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, home of the Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. On August 31st, 1962, 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county Kirk House in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by Mississippi men, highway patrolmen, and they allowed only 2 of us in to take the literacy test at a time. After we had taken the test and started back to Ruleville, we was held up by the city police and state highway patrolmen who carried us back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine and we continued on to Ruleville, where Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles into the rural area where I worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children, who told me the plantation owner was angry at me because I had gone down and tried to register. After they told me, my husband came, and he said that the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had gone down and tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, "Fannie Lou, did you know? Did Pap tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I meant that." He said, "If you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave." Said that if you don't go down and withdraw, you might have to leave because we're not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him, I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself.
All right.
And I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September, 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Ruleville, Mississippi. And also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. On June the 9th, 1963, I attended a voter registration workshop and was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us were traveling by Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 people got off to use the washroom. 2 of the people got off to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone off to use the restaurant was ordered out. During that time, I was on the bus, but when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed off, I got off the bus to see what was happening. And one of the ladies said it was the State Highway Patrol and the chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons that used the washroom got back on the bus too. And as soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to put 5 people in the highway patrolman car. I stepped off the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car where the 5 workers was getting in, "Get that one there." And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in a booking room. They left some of us in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman named Miss Ivesta Simpson. And after I was placed in a cell, I began to hear sounds of licks and screams, horrible screams. I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes, sir, nigga? Can you say yes, sir?" And they would use horrible names. And she would say, "Yes, sir. I can say yes, sir." So say it. She says, I don't know you well enough. And they beat her. I don't know how long, but after a while, she began to pray and ask God to have mercy on those people. And it wasn't long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from, and I told him, Ruleville. We're gonna check into this. And they left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back, and he said, you're right, you from Ruleville, right? And he used a curse word and said, we are going to make you wish you were dead. I was carried out of that cell and into another cell where there were 2 Negro prisoners. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders of the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on the bunk on my face. And I laid on my face. The first Negro began to beat. And I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. And I was holding my hands behind my back on the left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. And the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted. The state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro who beat to sit on my feet, to keep me from working my feet. And I began to scream. And one of the white men began to beat me in my head and told me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high, and I pulled it down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All of this on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, land of the free, home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hook because our lives be threatened daily, just because we want to live like decent human beings in America? Thank you.
God is not forgot. God is not forgot. God is not forgot. God is not forgot. 'Cause if you said that you would do it, it will come to pass. God is not forgot. God is not forgot. Can you hear me sing?
God is not forgot. God is not forgot.
God is not forgot.
God is not forgot. God is not forgot.
If you said
that He would do
it will come to
pass. God is not forgot. God is not forgot.
just keep on believing. God is not forgot. Just keep on believing. God is not forgot. 'Cause if He said that He would do it, it would come to pass. God is not forgot. God is not forgot. Come on, help me sing.
Just keep on believing. God not forgotten. Just keep on believing. God is not forgotten. He said that he would do it. It will come to pass. God is not forgotten. God is not forgotten.
Don't get discouraged. God is not forgotten. Don't get discouraged. God is not forgotten. 'Cause if he said that he would do it, it will come to pass. God is not forgotten. God is not forgotten.
Don't get discouraged. God is not forgotten. Don't get discouraged. God is not forgotten.
He said
That he would do it. It will come to pass. God is not forgotten. God is not forgotten. Love is not forgotten. Love is not forgotten. Love is not forgotten. Love is not forgotten. He said that he would do it. It will come to pass. God is not forgotten. God is not forgotten. Love 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 is not forgotten. Love's not forgotten.
It's a no-fault situation. No forward plan, no cognitive choice for the black people born American and for the white people born American. No one asked for this bag. The guilt, the shame, the trauma, but that doesn't matter because it's still here. Inheritance is not always windfall money and private islands and priceless works of art. Sometimes it's debt. An exclusive inclusion for a membership that no one truly wants. Black lives matter. Our trauma is real. You need only to look. We're begging you to just see, really see us. White fragility exists. Supporting the status quo without the conscious consent of its constituents, yet still feeding the machine. It's not your fault that you were born white in America. It's not my fault that I was born black in America. It is our shared responsibility, however, to use our breath for those who can't breathe. It is our shared responsibility to hold 405 years of history to account and define the all of 1776 as just that, everyone, everywhere. It is our shared responsibility to dismember a system of oppression so old and so foundational that it continues to thrive without a visible head. It is our responsibility to sit in the discomfort of our inheritances and make ourselves better for it, lest our children and grandchildren be needlessly saddled with them, as we have been.
Y'all, we have had some talent and good energy up here so far, haven't we? Yeah? Yeah? This ensemble, first of all, look, I'm not even doing it. Amazing. Thank you all for your work. Thank you all for your music. And now we come to the best part of the service, our offering. Who said the prayer? The offering. This offering is going to be shared with Blue. and that's Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. Those visitors, we are practicing our giving in our faith, so feel free not to give. But otherwise, we will generously give and accept the offering at this time. Thank you. So just a note about Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony. After that testimony, support came pouring in from across the nation, as you can imagine. But still, she failed to win a seat at Atlantic at that time. But just a touch, 4 years later, she won that seat at the National Convention in Chicago. And on that occasion, she received a thunderous standing ovation, and she became the first Black American to take her rightful seat as an official delegate at a National Party convention since Reconstruction. And she was the first woman ever to do that for the state of Mississippi. And, you know, when we hear those words, or when we hear, as Canova talked about in her poem, the things that we have inherited as Americans, it can be painful, and I acknowledge that. Sometimes, though, I also want to say that it can hurt to remember, even if you weren't there. So just last week, I returned from a trip from Dakar, Senegal. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to visit Gorée Island, which is a stop on the Atlantic slave route, and it was one of the largest ports for that. From there, Black people would be taken to the Caribbean and to the New World, here to America. Now, when I knew that we were going on this tour as part of my writing residency, I felt conflicted. One part of me knew that I needed to see it. You know, this is history. This is not just history, it's also Black history, and as a Black American, I need to be close to that history. So I knew that it would traumatize me and I would feel it deeply. But still, I went on this tour, and as we were boarding the ferry to Gorée, all I could think about was how much I didn't want to be there. But we had an excellent tour guide, and you know, I love cats, and they had cats all over the island. They were following, and I missed my cats at home, so I was trying to find comfort. So the first place we stopped on Gorée Island was the first slave house that was ever built on that island. And if you have not visited there, I want you to imagine a room the size of a very small closet or pantry. The window was narrow, only about this big, so that no one would be able to escape. Enslaved women and men were separated. And in all of those small rooms, they had to squat on the floor. And the next room we saw was a room where the women were kept. And then we saw another room for children that were ages 6 and up. Then there was another room where women with children, 6 and under, stayed. And then there was a room where young girls who had just hit puberty and who had large breasts were kept for the European men who visited the island to sleep with. And if a woman produced a baby from that coupling, then she was set free and her child was free, and they had some semblance of freedom on Goree Island. We saw a feeding room where anyone who weighed under 150 pounds, because you had to weigh at least 150 pounds or so to be sent on, they were force-fed beans and palm oil to make them gain weight. So at every single turn, I could feel the energy in these rooms. The remembrance, it started to become a physical sensation for me. I was having trouble breathing and my body felt heavy. And though I don't really have the words to explain, I'm gonna try. It felt like my soul and my body were being separated from each other, if that makes sense. And we kept going through, and then we saw a punishment room that was so small that you couldn't even stand upright in this room. And sometimes enslaved people were kept there for days. Then we saw another room where anybody who wanted to rebel or who refused to do what they were asked were tied to a column and beaten. And if if their spirits weren't broken by then, they were sent to Jamaica and they were sent to Haiti. And the reason they were sent there was because working on the plantations there was so difficult that most enslaved people who worked there would die within 7 years. So if you got sent there, it was usually a death sentence. But in contrast to these heavy feelings, I was also noticing that there were tourists from all over the world there. There were European tourists who were walking and smiling and laughing, and some were playing in the rooms. There were black tourists whose ancestors did not experience enslavement. They were taking pictures in the punishment room. I saw Arab and Lebanese tourists. They were walking around gesturing and making jokes. People were stooping and taking peace sign pictures in the room. And my feelings were so hurt that when it was time for us to see a bit more of the island, I had to stop and take a seat. The bottom of my stomach felt so heavy that I felt like I was just gonna drop into the ground myself. But as I was sitting and I was weeping, I noticed that all around the island, there were souvenirs, clothing, art, food, jewelry for sale. Paintings were lining the streets, and these instruments made from like the fruit husk and natural things were being sold too. Goree was more than just a painful place. It was a tourist trap. But what really caught my attention was there was a huge heart that sat at the front of the island. And I just kept looking at that heart, and I kept asking the guys and asking the people around me, why is there a heart near a place with such a painful history?
Keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. My, please keep your heart wide open. Well, till your faith brings you back to solid ground. Keep Whitney. When you're down and in despair, don't feel uneasy because he'll be there. Say, don't you worry, no, don't you fret. The Lord has never failed me yet, so hold on.
Hold on, help is on the way. Hold on,
He's on his way.
help is on the way.
Pray and he'll be there now.
Hold on, help is on the way. Hold on, help is on the way.
Now when it seems that you can't stand, just hold on to God's unchanging hand. Yes, weeping may, yes, endure for just one night, but joy will come in the morning light. So hold on.
Hold on, help is on the way.
It's coming through now.
Hold on, help is on the way.
Because I know he's now out.
Hold on, help is on the way.
He's on his way now.
Hold on, help is on the way.
He
may not come when you want him, but he'll be right there on time. Help is on the way.
Because I know it is.
Help is on the way.
Help is on the way now.
Help is on the
Do you
way.
believe it today?
Help is on the
The
way.
word told me.
Help is on the way.
I asked and it's on his way.
Help is on the way.
I thank him because I know it is.
Help is on the way.
Help is on the way now.
Help is on the way.
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 My goodness. Okay. So I struggled with the inconsistencies of Goree Island, needless to say. Yes, it's a place for tourists. Yes, that's how the island makes money. But a heart? One of the people I was with said, well, maybe it's a place where honeymooners go. And I'm thinking, who goes to Dakar, Senegal and says, oh, let's pose in front of a slave house? I mean, I guess it could happen, but why? I struggled with those two things existing next to each other. And then, on the way back on the ferry to Dakar, something happened. And then it all made sense. Okay. So that is a traditional song, Fatuyo, and I didn't have time to show the rest of the clip, but people were up dancing and smiling. And that song was full of joy and happiness. And it started just organically with that one singer, but then it spread, and then there was this response and call. And in that moment, the expression on everybody's faces changed to one of joy. Me too. You see, I don't know if you saw me cheesing, all the teeth that I got was showing in there. In that moment, it didn't matter about your ethnicity or whether your ancestors had been formerly enslaved, we were taken in that song. Goree Island has no crime, it has no pollution, and the water is clear all the way down to the bottom. Children play on the beach alongside cats waiting for table food in open-air restaurants. Everyone works, but they also share what they have. In that moment, just a touch of that joy and that music made it make sense to me. See, joy can exist even in the midst of horrible things. That's not to say that the horrible thing goes away completely or that we don't continue to struggle, but it is to say that for one moment, we are beyond our circumstances. When Fannie Lou Hamer encountered those circumstances, those subhuman circumstances that she experienced in jail, she was still able to hear a woman praying. Just imagine what you could feel from a prayer in the midst of violence. Just a touch. It's that moment, it's that touch that gives us hope, and we can live in that single action like the woman who touched Jesus' hem. That touch renews our ability to exist. It's true, we've inherited a place where we don't have equity and where many of us are marginalized and mistreated, and yet all of us are still here, working together to make this world a heaven on earth. We're working in our personal lives to do the spiritual work to make ourselves more loving, more discerning, more wise. It's not easy all the time. And these moments with touches of joy or relief or laughter or insight don't always change our circumstances, but they tell us to go on living. They tell us to keep trying to bring hope and justice and love, even if it is just a touch to the ugly places. They prove that we can exist and still keep our goals of justice, liberation, equity, and love in a place when it seems like they won't happen. They prove that two things can be true at once and that all the nuances in between are opportunities for us to lean in and act with our best selves, even if it's just a touch. This is how my ancestors survived enslavement, moments of joy, and creating something beautiful in the midst of ugliness. It's creating community in a world that can make us feel very much alone sometimes. And that's how we, even when things seem hopeless, know that we can survive too with just a touch.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say them loud, say them clear, for the whole wide world to hear. Say them loud, make them clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give give, all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I could do, though I'm way overdue. I'll be starting anew, though I'm way overdue. I'll be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found that I could fly. I look to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
So we had a little bit of a heavy unpacking today. So I thought that it would be a good idea for us to end on a note of meditation. So I want to invite you to get comfortable. And if you wish to close your eyes, if that's something that you do, I want you to become aware of your breath and breathe slowly and deeply. Just let go of any tension that you may be having in your body as you exhale. Let the warmth of relaxation flow through your whole body, from your head all the way down to your feet. I want you to think of a time when you experienced great joy and well-being. Maybe you were in a beautiful place. Maybe you were with a good friend. Recall that with as much detail as you can. And if you can, bring an image to mind. What was happening? What was the environment? What sights, sounds, smells do you remember? Remember that feeling of joy and well-being. How did your body feel? Try to recreate that in your body. Did you feel energetic, expansive, open, present, clear? Let's just sit with that for a few seconds. Now I want to invite you to come back to the room. Feel whatever sensations you're feeling in your body. Let them fully register as you continue to breathe in well-being and breathe out any tension. All right, welcome back. Y'all good? All right, so now, it's Mardi Gras. I was just joking when I said there wasn't gonna be no Mardi Gras up in here. We're gonna have a little bit of Mardi Gras. And our closing song is kind of an old school song. It's called Gotta Be by Desiree. And if back in the day you used to watch Good Morning America used it for the theme song. So as we come forward now to begin to sing this song, I want you to feel whatever you feel in your body. If you feel like moving, I want you to move. If you feel like being in the aisles, I want you to get in the aisles. If you feel like just doing a little shimmy in your seat, do a little shimmy in your seat. So Y'all feel free to stand if you like.
Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up, be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, read the books your father read. Try and solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. My, oh my, hey, hey, hey. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. Time asks no questions, it goes on without you, leaving you behind if you can't stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning, can't stop it if you try to. The best part is danger staring you in the face. Remember, listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you fears. Go ahead, release your fears. My, oh my, hey, hey, hey. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. All I know is love will save the day. All I know is love will save the day.
Yes. And now, for our benediction, I'm going to do it from up here, and then we're going to get some more. They got to be strong. I'm going to stand out your way when y'all dance and fellowship and do all of that. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time in this place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Ashe, amen, blessed be, may it be so.
You gotta be bold, you gotta be bad, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know is love will save the day. All I know is love will save the day. Together. All I know is love will save the day.